Hey, DeRacers. So today we're going to talk to you specifically about Season 2 and the DeRacers Elite Racing Club. So this is our team. This was our first one on Season 2. And of course, as you probably know, we did quite well. So today what we're hoping to do is to share with you a little bit of insight of what it was like for us to prepare, what was it like for us in the season, and then also what are we doing to prepare to deliver again in Season 3.
All right, so let's actually introduce some of the team members that we have here. We're going to invite them into the chat now.
All right, so first we got ourselves Ant and we got Adi. Now we have another team member now who is a part of Season 2, but he is unavailable at the moment. Now, when we bring you guys in here, I want to talk to you specifically about some of the tools and the preparation that we were working on. So we built ourselves, of course, as most people now know, the indisputable setup. We had our, of course, synth, turf, and dirt. But what we did unique about this is we built a method that we could start to rank each of our teammates up here. We built our win rate analyzer, and this is going into Season 2, just trying to figure out what was the best way of where you wanted to race your horse. So starting with you, Ant, what kind of tools did you like to look at the most in order to get a sense of which horses you wanted to bring into Season 2 and where you were planning on racing them?
I think really I just looked at that main page to see where we kind of ranked. I think it was this sheet, preseason. And then I think during the season we created something that was a little bit more refined.
Yep.
But in preparation, this was probably the number one tool. And when I saw my horse was up top or something that it was very minimally raced at that length, we just pushed it a little harder in the preseason. And then, whether we hold it or we don't, that's up to the horse.
So how many races would you say you would run before you would say it was qualified to be inside a season?
Probably closer to 30 to 50 before it's, a solid, we maybe can push this during the comp.
Yep, that sounds right. How about you, Adi? What was your favorite tool question, and like similar questions about that? How experienced did you want to run a horse before you considered it qualified?
I always think like at least 50 races. I mean, I don't trust a horse until like 100 or two, honestly, but I think 50 was good for the comp. My favorite tool was definitely this undisputable chart. I didn't use it exclusively. I tried to maintain my own, spreadsheets, looking at podiums, average times, variance, the stuff I did before I kind of met and got with you guys. But this thing was awesome. It helped me discover new tracks, places I was unraced where I thought I was terrible and maybe I had a chance. So it was pretty cool to discover those new things I didn't even know I had in my horses. So
one of the things that I like that we did in preparation is as the team manager, I was able to take these indisputables. Here we're looking at dirt. We had all the horses that our team had listed down the left-hand side. We could rank all of them on the separate tracks and see which ones were the best. And my job was to then kind of synthesize that into where the horses should run and not step on each other. And that's a tool that we've since done away with because the season is over, and we separated it back out. You can see on the list here that we've got a bunch of horses that are new, that are unranked, or at least unraced on a lot of the tracks. And that means that our team is prepping for the next season already, getting new horses in there, having them show up on the board. So the fact that we have this many horses already showing up on the board doing so much better than our team did last season is already a good sign. So I'm excited to be able to prep again for the next season. But I wanted to point this out because we have some that were incredibly good on certain tracks. And when it came to preparation and strategy for Season 2, we had to look at that and make sure that we didn't have too many horses that were all going to be running the same track. I know that Adi and Antibug had a lot of horses that were doing really well on different tracks. And it was really important that we made sure that they weren't bumping into each other.
Mm-hmm. So then as we entered into the season, we did quickly make a new tool. So the previous one that we were showing, that had 100% of all of our horses. It had every horse, actually. So we were able to do lookups on competitors as well. But that was a very slow tool to do updates. Every time I did a data update with how many tools there were, it took 10 to 15 minutes to process. So this one came in. And my job, since I really only showed up to the table with one good horse, my role was a database admin. And so Ant, he helped me create, or he created the data update. And as you could see from the competition, as you scroll through each of these, each time I make a post, it's that I've updated the code one more time. And as I zoom out, you just see that that's all I did was update, update, update. It felt like it was on the hour, every hour, around the clock. But this is how we were able to quickly pay attention to the ranks of everybody. And then we also had this, which I think we'd all probably agree was a huge tool. This was our way of mapping out where everybody was running, and we constantly would rank it so we would know how well people were faring. But yeah,
I'm gonna ask you guys, when you would look at this page, or really any of the pages that we were putting together as a team, how often were you guys on Discord, on these sheets, throughout the season, on any given day? How much time were you spending?
I think I was watching a lot of other people. It actually got into the point where we were watching whether Brad was sleeping or not, whether Scorpion was sleeping or not. We were trying to, and it got down to those final races where we were really watching this, and we were actually keeping an eye on who was on and who wasn't, which horses were active, which ones weren't, because people were waiting for those last 3 or 4 races to get to 80.
Mhm.
So they're not using a bot for those last 3 or 4 races usually. So they're manually entering, and the only hours they can enter are when they're awake. So you gotta strategize with that.
And how about you, Adi? How much time do you think you spend on Discord and paying attention to these tools during the competition?
Discord, that was tough to keep up with everyone. I would come home from work and just see 500 messages. I can't respond to them all. Like you guys are on new thoughts already. So I just kind of had to roll with it, try to catch up. I was in this sheet a lot. I think there was some issues with DeRacing.org just having it updated. I don't remember when exactly that was, but various times throughout the comp. So this was extremely helpful. Just to look at something really quickly. Although it does look like you're staring into like the Matrix or something. I'm like, I get sort of dizzy, but you just got to find your horse, look right, you see how you're doing, what tracks you're doing good on. And I think at the beginning, you tend to want to throw your horse on all their good tracks, see what they're going to do. And then eventually these percentages are going to drop, and 1 or 2 are going to appear, and you got to go with those. And I think that's kind of my general strategy, just kind of following the luck or whatever was going to happen.
You brought up a really good point there with the data updating. We had Not a Vampire taking the time to update as regularly as he did because the site wasn't updating as quickly as we needed. There were some of our horses that were getting 60, 70 plus races, and we were waiting to see, like, wait, how many more do we need to do? And so we were having to update our data and try to keep on top of that, and then cross-reference it with deracing.org as that would update. We had a couple of them where we ended up racing 1 or 2 extra races or being just shy of 1. But that's all part of it. And looking at this sheet, Adi, you mentioned that it looks like the Matrix. Early on, this was the most chaotic thing to look at initially because horses were moving up and down constantly, especially early. And everything on the left-hand side that you see here that's purple was not purple initially. Those were all just dark. And purple indicates that our horse was done running.
Correct.
And so as we were updating in live time, that was part of my job to manage who was done racing, because then you could cross-reference what column you were on and see that, oh, okay, well, now the Turf 11s have opened up because that horse is done. So being able to understand which horse was running when, how well they were doing. I can only imagine how much time you guys are spending looking at it. But I know for us, Not a Vampire and I were spending hours and hours and hours doing stuff that was on the fringe of this, that was feeding into these sheets.
So something for the people that might not be able to see this, what this is a list of all of our horses in our stable. So we did not run all of them, even though we had a good amount of spare horses on the side. The focus on this was it will show you how many races each of the horses qualified, their podium rate, and then also it will have their win rate. So from left to right, it's going to show you your dirt, your synth, and your turf. And so the nice thing about this is just really quickly, you can see that Rolling Thunder across the board was maintaining a 22% win rate on synth 10s. So like if we're trying to manage and look for opportunities, you could see that, hey, there's another good one at 24.14, just a really clean map. If your horse did not run on it, it didn't illuminate. So if people were going away from strategy, they would start showing up as red because we would see that they were pulling into bad points. If anything showed up as white, that was neutral, meaning it's not enough to score our team points. And on the far right-hand side, this was the alleged points that we would get from the qualified position against all other horses. This then tied over here to our team points. This showed we were doing the same thing for every single horse we had against all the competition. And then we estimated the ranking methods over here. And this is what we would update regularly as well to show the team this is how we were doing. And for like the first third of the whole competition, we were hanging out in 4th place. And then we started to show up, which was exciting. Quick question out of you guys. I mean, I know we all thought we were going to do okay. What position do you think you guys thought we were going to win at the beginning of this tournament?
I think it was definitely top 3. I felt strong that Fash was going to be up there. Degen. There was even average jockeys kind of made me a little nervous there. But I knew that there was going to be some hard competition, but I thought we were going to be top 3.
All right. How about you, Audie? Were you surprised by anything?
Yeah, I was surprised by how much we dominated, I think. But I didn't think we – I mean, I knew there was a chance we'd get first. But, yeah, I think, like, you know, my goal was, like, top 3 for sure. But once Na got aboard – it was like apparent we had some good horses on our team, and we had a very good shot at first. I was kind of surprised we were in 4th right away, but we just had to get going. And once we got going, it was like unstoppable. It was nice. The whole time I was kind of curious. I was like, is this calculated exactly how Brad did, like officially? Like, how did that work out? What you guys calculated? Did that line up with his? Or?
So the reason why I'm actually on screen here jumping back and forth is because Brad's tallies and ours were always just a little bit different as we were going. It was really close and ended up being very similar. We had from Brad, he had this unqualified or non-qualified, I guess would be the list. And that one more closely aligned with what we were seeing. Because again, it was as the competition started, we were including all horses to get a sense of where they were going to fall. But as we got closer and closer to the end, Brad switched over to the qualified leaderboard and started using that, and horses were constantly moving into that throughout the days. So I jumped back and forth here to kind of show the difference. One of the other things I wanted to ask, and not a vampire, I'm not sure if you're about to do this, but you mentioned surprises, and I'm gonna ask the question, not just surprises about how we did as a team, but tell us about some of the surprises that you had with your individual horses. Some of the ones that good or bad that you guys saw happen.
I think there was some of my horses that I expected to do very good didn't, and I think this is for everyone. I mean, the horses that I didn't expect to do good, like Lunk, I mean, I was ready to give up on him before the comp even started, and he did really good. So I was very surprised by some of the horses that I had out there. I expected a little bit more out of Tika, a little bit more out of Harry. They were down there. They're actually pretty close stats wise, and they both came out of the Gen 1 comp together. But yeah, overall, like Lunk is way up there. I mean, I don't even. He's for sale. I'll sell him. I mean,
he's a champion.
I gave up on him. I mean, he's a champion, but
40 ETH.
Yeah,
you know what? Before I let you continue on this, man, I gotta say to everybody that's watching, talking to these two guys is one of the most frustrating things. Yesterday, Audie was telling me about how he doesn't know if this horse is any good, and it wins 20% of the time. And I'm just looking at this going, "Are you serious?" So
we want the finest.
You guys, yeah, you have very, very high expectations of your horses. I mean,
absolutely.
So let's take this back. How many of your horses did you expect if you thought they were going to score points in the top 100, I think you guys keep fighting for the top 10 per points. So if you were to say like a top 50 positioning, how many of the horses that you thought were going to be there didn't? Was it that big of a surprise, or are you more upset that you just didn't win first place with all of your horses?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I mean, I was just trying to do good. You know,
Yeah.
I was just trying to do my best and kind of prove myself to the team and do what I can do. I didn't really have any expectations whether it was, you know, certain horses. Yeah, I went in it just trying, and I raced all my horses. You see Black Eye up there. I don't think I really have faith in her, but she was up there too. You know, I mean,
She still
there's
delivered.
yeah, she still delivered. So I think I went in with zero expectation, and that was good because I was kind of blown away with what happened out there.
Yep. Now, in our team, we had a competition where the person that scored the most points for the team was going to be awarded a Liquid Love, and that went to you, Audie, with Rolling Thunder. Was that a big upset to you? Were you surprised by that, or were your horses delivering as you expected?
I really thought Peg Dead would have been more towards the top. Like he's had 30% win rates in certain tracks before. I mean, even after like 150 races. And you know what? Those numbers are just not sustainable. I mean, my expectations were too high, especially talking to you yesterday. Like I was complaining about that 20%. I think he was under 10% for up to 80 races. Like, so it was pretty disappointing. But I basically just pulled a Skonder, like you were saying. I trust my horse, just kept racing him. And once he got up, you know, near 15, it's like, let's put it down. I think I got 5 wins and out of 10, my last 10. I'm like, that's the best this horse is going to do. We're done.
Yep.
So I was happy with that, you know, but very happy and surprised with Rolling Thunder. Just for being, it's all about timing and just there is a little bit of luck involved. So I believe them.
So I'm going to call you out next, Not a Vampire. I know you had a surprise here and you want to talk a little bit about what Skondert was able to do. But in leading you into that, I want to point out that all of these horses right here in the top spots, was that the top 9, all ran like 80 races, like 80,
Exactly.
82 races. Like I think a couple of them threw an extra one in there. And then we have this guy, and there's a reason why Skondert is not purple. Skondert never stopped racing.
No.
So I just wanted you to talk a little bit about how surprising that was to have to pull that off.
Yeah, so my whole entire focus on the team again is data and a lot of these tools, and so Skondert is really my only good horse, but he is a great horse. I showed up at this competition with 1, and so I wanted to make sure that my horse delivered for the team. I wanted to do something more than just the math. And so when I brought Skondert into this, I was confident he was going to be a top 20 horse in the competition. I thought that that's where he deserved to be. And I don't think he got his first win until about 12, 15 races in. And then he continued to suck. I think at 80 races,
It hurt
he had
to watch, by the way.
it hurt. Yeah. I was like, this is embarrassing. He was nailing second places, nailing third places. And I was afraid, you know what, Skondert might just not be as strong of a horse as I hope. And when the other people are supposed to show up, he gets pushed out.
He was down here with these horses that are in red.
It was so bad.
The red indicates intent to burn.
Yeah. And so I was 80 races in, and I think he was a 5.63%, because I remember that number, because it was like, I can't even get double digits out of the guy. And then I just was like, screw it. I'm not doing anything but 8s and 9s and 8s and 9s and 8s and 9s. And he did. And if you look over at his score on 9s, you'll see that he climbed all the way up to a 19% on his 9s, which aligns with what he should be doing. And he was at 13%, which was a little bit low. But all in all, he averaged with 230 races, a 16.67, which ended up putting him, I think, in the top 20, 30 spots in the whole competition. And at that point, I was just screwed. I'm not stopping him. The more he runs, the higher he climbs. And so that's at 25th. So he went from one of the bottom horses, which was a disappointing surprise. But what he put through, I was very happy with, because he delivered as I expected eventually.
Yeah, and I'm going to add one thing in here. I probably had 10 horses maybe 6 or 8 horses that I really thought had a shot at being involved in this competition. I didn't intend to run all of them. One of those that I didn't intend to run at all is Bromies here, that ended up being our, 7th best horse. She literally ran, I think, like 3 different tracks, and that was because I made a mistake here and accidentally put her in a synth 3. But she spent almost all of her time on synth 4s, and I just steadily would throw her in there, and she was sitting at the top for the longest time. I knew she wouldn't be able to hold. She was up 25% or something for half the competition. I knew she wasn't going to be able to hold that, but the fact that she ended up at 17.5% after that many races was an absolute surprise to me. I think it is one of the elements of this season style that is so fascinating. We have these horses that start at the bottom. We have horses that start at the top. And at the end of the day, they should settle somewhere in the middle. I've got a horse that was my top horse that I expected to be up here that I think I ended up running 200 plus times. And it's Burra here. She ended up barely sneaking on for a couple of points at the end of the competition. But it took me running hundreds of races to get her up to 13%. She was just like Skondert in that way, except for Skondert had such an amazing climb at the end that he was able to pull all the way up to 16%. So yeah, that was the surprises for me.
All right. So now as we consider going into season 3, so we've been preparing already. We've been building already new tools. We got prospects that we're adding to the team. Some of the strategies that I think that we're going to be waiting for is once we learn from Brad what the season's going to be, we'll be adapting. But in anticipation of changes to the gameplay, are you guys confident, like if we had to reduce our horse count, or if we had to select just 30 horses or something like that, do you guys feel confident that what we would do as a team is still going to deliver? Are you equally as confident now going into season 3, or are you more confident going into season 3, even if the rules change? Oh, you're muted. Let me bring you back. Go for it.
Confident that we as a team could pick, whether it's 20, 30, whatever horses. I think we could have picked most of us could have picked the 30 horses that would have placed in season 2. Out of, I think, what do we have, like 70 something horses? I mean, we could have picked the 30 that were going to be up there. Yep. There was some curveballs that came in, a couple of horses that scored a few points that we didn't expect, but for the most part, I think we expected those horses to score the points.
How about you? How do you feel, Adi?
I feel like this game is so random. I don't know. All I can do is do our best. I mean, I had a few horses that if we were only allowed 30, I wouldn't have never raced them. And I had at least 3 in the top 100 that, I would have never raced. I would have never expected them to do well. So, and then the ones that you thought were going to do awesome might not be. So it's just hard to say. All you can do is just play the statistics, hope for the best, hope you're in a good cycle when the comp starts. So
I think that's the biggest thing that I learned from this, like with the experience with Skondert and seeing in the conversations I've had with you guys about cycles and what we've gone through. I think that's one of the biggest and most important things is to get a horse through an up and down cycle at least once, so you understand, like, hey, is this horse good? Is it broken? Is it bad? Or is this just what it does? And do I just need to put the numbers down? And I hope that, like, as we get ready for season 3, I mean, we all seem to race a ton, and I just keep watching all of our data just keep increasing. So I feel like it puts us in a very good position going into whatever is thrown at us.
One thing that I want to point out about prepping for season 3 that I think is really important here, and Ant, you mentioned it a little bit. We had 30 horses in the top 100. I'm gonna applaud us for that. Like, the next team had 13. Like, this, some people like to talk about how it's the total number of horses, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's how many points per horse you were scoring and how well they were ranking collectively. People like to talk about how Na has 60,000 horses or whatever he's got at this point.
60,001 today.
Yeah, and he adds them constantly, but something that's really important to note is that of the horses he added in, he could have collectively competed against the rest of us guys.
Mhm.
But without us, we would have both been about halfway to our 1,500 points. We would have maybe broken into third place without him, or at least without how many he had. But at the end of the day, it's not the quantity. It's the how many he was able to get onto the top 100. And that goes for all of us. The fact that we averaged 24 points per horse that was racing out there is amazing.
One
Yeah,
race.
it's definitely.
Even the donkeys, I'm sorry, even the donkeys that threw in, like that knocks that score down. So that means every horse that showed up, they pulled out an average of 24 points. Sorry, go back to you.
You've got quality of the horse, you've got the management, and then you got the luck. I mean,
Yeah.
there's those three major factors in this. I mean, we knew that we had a decent amount of quality horses, and we knew that we had a decent amount of donkeys, but we still raced all the donkeys just to see if they could score.
Yeah.
But that's because the rules were set the way they were. I think that we would have raced, specific horses that we knew that would have most likely scored if we had some horse limit, but there was no horse limit. So
Yep.
Yeah.
got to race
And
them all.
I think it's important to note too that if we were to switch to a model that is, say, win percentage collectively as a team, we still would have been crushing people because we had so many horses that were scoring in the top. Those donkeys that only ran a few times, their weighted average against the rest of the winners would have barely touched the score. So when we're thinking about what a season 3 might look like, I think the most difficult thing, at least from what I perceive, would be the choosing of our best horses. There's going to be some that fall off. There's going to be some that surprise in any given season. I think every team is going to have to deal with that. We're not the only team that had more than 30 horses.
And I think you're going to have to deal with the managers too. The managers are they're going to want their horse to be on there, and they're going to, whether they're the 31 placed horse that doesn't make the cut, and they really think that horse could have that talent to pull it off. You're going to have to deal with that as managers,
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Balancing personalities, I guess.
It was incredibly, I just want to say one thing. It was incredibly difficult to stay out of each other's way.
Yes.
I felt like, I think we were all kind of saying like, oh no, we're going to put these horses on this track. But if your horse is doing bad on the other track, you want to try a new one. And I might stick my horse in that race, and then I realize, oh no, I just beat Mr. E's horse. He's gonna kick me off the team. So that was pretty hard, especially we're running bots. They're just entering us automatically. You got to be careful. So I thought we coordinated that very excellently.
To go along with that, the offsetting of the DERCs too. We're like racing 3 DERC instead of 2 DERC, and this person reserved 2 DERC and this person reserved 1 DERC, and that worked out pretty good too, is layering the stats.
That's a good point. Forgot to bring that up in the strategy, because you're right. Like, we did exactly that. We would rank so that way we'd help make sure if you were on the fringe, it was a 1 DERC track, and then 2 and 3, depending on how senior it was.
I think we could have done a lot more with that, because I mean the 3 DERCs ended up being less horses in it, so it wasn't necessarily that you wanted your best horse at the 3 DERC, because there's less chance of them winning. I mean,
Yep.
I mean,
less races.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's a higher probability.
Yeah, probability.
The other thing that we discovered too, which you give away everybody, our little secret that we found, was that the second wave, or we refer to it as wave 2, everybody seemed to aggressively race in the first week, got really close to 60, 65, and then they started slowing down, and they were really cautious, it seemed, of when they would race. And so what we seemed to do is we took that as an opportunity to just bring in a second wave of horses, and we would pair them up with our donkeys. And then we were finding that we were able to pick up a lot of really easy races. And I think that's where we got a massive boost to our score. And I think that's what everybody might have seen when we started pulling away. It was because we saw an opportunity for a second wave, and we snuck in as quickly as we could.
That's 100%. And I was actually, we put the question up here, and I took it off, this luck question, right? And I want to speak to that a little bit. A lot of people talk about whether or not we just got lucky.
Mhm.
And Not a Vampire, you just said exactly what I was going to say. When I spoke to other managers, partly through the season as well as post, after the season was over, I was asking them how many of them saw that same exact thing. How many of them saw that once those top horses had finished, there was a huge opening of opportunity for a second wave. How many of them held their horses back for a second wave? And almost no one did.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few horses that started to run and didn't even reach 80 that you could consider to be part of that same category. But we actually saw that happening, or at least predicted that it might happen, and then saw it start happening. And that's how I actually sent in Bromise. Like, I didn't intend to run her. She was one of my donkeys that was sitting in the back. And the minute that we saw, what was it, like 4 days? And some people already had their 80 races. We were like, okay, we've got 11 more days or 10 more days that we can run these horses on. And that's when I sent her in, and she started to win because she didn't have the same level of competition anymore. And I consider that to be strategic, not luck. And so I'll throw it back to you guys. Ant or Adi, do you see what percentage, I guess, is the question. Now, what percentage of this game, this season, is luck based?
I think Addy will have a different take on this, but I would say it's probably close to like 80%. With the data, with the horses, and then there's like a 20%. You never know. I mean, I think this season was set up better. In this, it was good. And sorry, you made me the main screen now. that totally threw me off. All right. So I think there was a good percentage of luck in it, but there was also a lot of skill and a lot of data and a lot of spreadsheets that also helped us. And analyzing our horses against each other was huge. And then taking that data and then analyzing against other teams and seeing where, okay, Addy, Scorpion's racing all over your tracks. How are you going to adjust? We all had to adjust, and we kept adjusting. And then some of us would adjust. You'd see Nah hop on Addy's tracks and Addy hop on Nah's tracks. And, I would see that, and I would, text Addy, let him know, hey, you guys are both on the same track. You guys need to talk it out. There were certain things that, we had to strategize and kind of reduce that, luck factor and increase the skill factor.
That's a really good point. Audie, I'll give you the floor here in just a second, but I wanted to speak to that. I want to give you guys kudos. I was the team manager, but you guys were doing such a good job of staying on top of how often there was a conflict and whether or not there was one that was about to form, because we saw that some of our horses needed to move tracks, move to something different. And you guys would ask, should I run mine on 3 DERCs and yours on 2s and 1s? And having that open dialogue and that good communication between the team members made my job easier, because I didn't have to sit there and constantly crack a whip. I could rely on you guys to do it.
All right, so
just glad I didn't get fired this season.
Yeah. I mean, the more I think about this, like, we're trying to coordinate. What do we have? 67 horses, something like that.
Yep.
I mean, that can't be all luck. You gotta have a little bit of luck on your side individually, but coordinating all these horses together, trying not to step on each other's toes, that's difficult. Watching the other horses' percentages, the win percentages, like Scorpion, you'd have a high percentage, they just stop racing. So you want to get close to that, and then maybe you stop him, see what he does. And then we're, coordinating with each other as well. So there's a lot of strategy that went into that win. I do think the unraced tournament is a little more luck, like the new horses. Because you're training a horse in 1 week, you got like 20 races on your favorite track, the horse's favorite track, and then you're just hoping they're going to just start winning right out of the gate of week 2. And if they don't, you're done. You're done.
Yeah.
So there is luck. Absolutely. A lot of it's luck, but you got to have it all. You got to have strategy, luck, and then your teammates coordinating and such. So.
Well, and I think Adi, didn't you end up winning the unraced?
I did. I was so happy.
Yeah, speak to a little bit on what decision you had to make at the very end there.
It was tough with that other horse. I in my gut, I knew that other horse is probably better than mine. If you looked at its record in its first couple races, I think they tried 6 dirt as their first race, just won it right away, and then just kept running that track. And if you looked at their all the tracks they tested, there was only 5. So right away they could just get right on that good track and just dominate it. And that's basically what that horse did. So every time I'd get up on top, it would win another race in the middle of the night. And then I look at the results, and there's like 6 horses in that race, and I'm like, oh man, he's like cherry picking these. They were, the owner I think is Yoder. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Extremely good at strategizing and slow playing and knowing when to race. That was incredible competition. And
I want to know if
so
that
fun.
guy just picked that. If Yoder just picked that track and just ran with it, or what he was using. I don't know if he had cheat codes or something. Because we were talking about that. Me and Addie were going back and forth texting about that throughout the almost the entire tournament. Like, how is this guy doing this? Like, he literally narrowed the track down after trying like 6 tracks.
Yeah.
Was he just trying those? I really want to know his strategy on this. Like, he definitely is a person you should have on this show for this.
Yeah, reach out to us.
Oh yeah, big time.
Please.
Yeah.
I want to hear it.
Mr. E, do you have any thoughts? What percentage of luck?
I do think there's a large part of this that's luck. I think to answer that, it's about harnessing that luck, right? Being able to notice that you are on a lucky streak, being able to recognize that there's ups and downs that are going to occur, and whether or not your horse should continue to push through that. It was incredibly unlucky that Skondert had to run 200 plus, that Burra had to run 200 plus, that we had 2 or 3 other horses that had to run a couple hundred races. But at the end of the day, we know our data so well that we know those horses are going to kind of come out of that trend at some point. So is it luck based? Absolutely. But is it being able to harness that luck and move beyond that and move into more of strategy? Yeah. So for me, it's 50-50. I honestly do think that this game is a lot of luck. My unraced horse, I ran it 200 plus times during discovery and ended up with like an 8% win rate. And I was like, oh, this isn't going to do anything, but I'll run the 40 races anyway. I ended up with like a 4% win rate, like half of the random discovery ones. So like, is it luck? Absolutely. I thought I knew what it was good at, and I didn't even get remotely close to the numbers it should have. Could I have run 200 more? Sure. I could have wasted money.
But like,
yeah.
The challenge I would have with that is, I think if there was only 80 races and you couldn't run one more than that, I would say, yeah, that is a definitely sign of luck. But the fact that there was just a minimum and that you had the ability to run more, I think that's the part where it pulls down the luck, because cycles, in my opinion, I think cycles can last between 50 and 100 races. So if you start like I did at the bottom of a cycle and you're running that thing and you just lose out all of those things, as long as you have the opportunity to get over the next hump, I think that that's less luck, more knowledge about that horse. And so I'm hoping that everybody out there is racing a lot more. I'm hoping that as we go into season 3 and season 4, we're going to see a lot more veteran races going against each other, because it'd be nice to know that, hey, we're going against these guys. We know that they could do this. This is what our horses can do. I get excited to see more veterans out there.
So you know what I noticed too, which is kind of crazy, is you got the cycles, right? But then you also have the cycles of horses, and that was kind of something we were trying, like what Addie just said, where Yoder was cherry picking the races because he was watching kind of that cycle of horses that are online or offline, you know, picking those races that maybe have more donkeys in it or testing horses. There's a lot to it. I mean, we could have all started our bots at the same time, everyone joining in the races at the same time, everyone's racing their best horses on that track. it could be a cycle that you're losing a lot of races, or the competition just could be that good,
Mhm.
you know, and you don't really know if you're in a cycle or not. And I know many of us kind of stepped back and took our horse off the track for a little bit, and saw, you know, the horses kind of get off the track a little bit too, and then we jump back onto the track, and some of them jump back on the track, and I think it was a game that we were having out there where we were seeing, you know, the races go down to 6 horses, then back to 12, back to
Yep.
6, back to 12. You
Mhm.
know, everyone was kind of doing the same strategizing. Whether they're doing it on purpose, I don't know, you know, but um, yeah, you definitely saw a lot of that out there.
Mm-hmm. All right. I'm going to throw one last question up before we wrap it up then. Next season, if it's in a couple weeks and wearables are available, do you plan on equipping wearables and doing that, or are you going to go in naked and rely on your historical data? Thoughts? Anyone want to jump in?
That's tough. That's a tough question.
Both. I think our proven horses just naked. Just you know what they can do.
Yeah.
And then the horses you want to stick in, see if they can get lucky. Maybe experiment a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're not going to have data on that.
Yeah, it's going to mess up a lot of things.
So maybe like looking at Lunk, like, you know, we don't know if he's going to be competing at this top quality level for long. You know, maybe we throw some wearables on him and maybe he performs better. You know, I don't know. You know, it's
how
kinda,
many wearables are there too? Like
Yeah,
what, 10 of them or something?
we got to know more.
Which one do you put on?
What do they look like?
Yeah.
I think the big thing for me with wearables is we know that not everyone's going to have them and not have them for a while. The fact that you're going to have to access them through chests and keys and earning them through experience gained and different things like that, and then eventually trading them and buying them and whatnot off the secondary markets, you're going to see that there might be a random horse out there that has a saddle or has horseshoes or something like that. But as we know from recent conversations with Christus, that those horses are all going to look the same.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're actually out there running, you're not going to be able to know that someone's got their horse decked out in gear or not. It's going to look like they all have gear. So understanding that in terms of a season and how that plays out, I think at the end of the day, it's just, again, going to be watching who's out there, assessing who's going into those races and going, you know what, that horse is way too good. I'm not going up against it, whether I have wearables or not.
Yep. Good thoughts. All right, gentlemen. Well, Audie, Ant, thanks for joining. Wish Na could be here too with us, but season 3 is going to be around the corner, and so hopefully we'll be out there dominating once more.
Thank you guys so much. It's been a pleasure.
You got it.
Great job on season 2, guys. Congrats.